Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, and it's that time yet again as we are now in the middle of February for another and the gentleman. And to do that, as always, I need the gentleman of mixed martial arts, and that's the gentleman Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Living up in this blizzard out here. Thought I'd put my nice Russian hat on.
Yeah, looking
Yeah.
like looking like Nikolai Volkov.
Classic, right? Volkov. But yeah, man, it's crazy out here. I don't know how bad you guys got it out there, but we got hit with a shit ton of snow.
Yeah, we got a lot of snow as well. The best gift I got for Christmas was a cover for the car, so you don't have to scrape the ice and the snow off the windshield and the side mirrors. So that was been one of the best gifts. But yeah, it finally, we finally get snow just at the wrong time.
Yeah, I like this shit on Christmas time, and then that's
Yeah,
it. Come January 31st, I'm done with it. Or
yeah.
sorry, December 31st, I'm done with it.
Same with me, but we got another couple more weeks of it. But we are coming off a holiday, Josh, as Monday was Family Day and Valentine's Day on the Sunday. So, how was this long weekend for you?
It's like every other day in my life right now.
Exactly.
It's Groundhog Day every day. But no, it was good. It was fun. I mean, we get so much time to hang out with the kids, and with all the snow, it's actually been good. We've been taking them tobogganing, and so that's been fun.
Yeah, as I recall being a kid, the snow was fun for that, and using your Brett Hull GT.
Yeah, and the GT Snow Racer. Me and my wife were just talking about that. We're gonna buy one for the kids. That was the best, dude. I love those things back in the day.
They were amazing. You could get some serious air on some jumps on those things.
Yeah, yeah. I just right now I just got like my 2-year-old just got like a little tiny sled, but already she wants to go off jumps and stuff. So I think she's graduated to the GT already.
Yeah, but kids won't know the greatness of Brett Hall promoting those things.
Yeah, I remember that on the box. Yeah, Brett Hall and the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah, and he came with a Brett Hall poster too.
I think I remember that too.
I
Yeah,
think I
that's
had the
right.
poster as well. Brett Hall,
Yeah.
like an 80 goal scorer for the Blues at that point.
Oh, Hall was the shit, man. Then a one-time slapper. That's what he was known for.
One of the best one-time slap shots, and now he brings a whole new meaning to taking shots. So if you saw him when the Blues won the Cup 2 years ago now. So, but we're not here to talk about revolve about memories of jumping off cliffs and stuff with snow and Brett Hull. But Josh, we had our second UFC pay-per-view of 2021, and was headlined by Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. And, there wasn't much buzz as we talked about last week, but all in all, I thought the main event really delivered. And Kamaru Usman, he's like a bag of chips or a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get with him because he can put the clinch style fight against you, or he can let his boxing go. And his boxing, he should really let it go more. Like his use of the jab was unbelievable. Weathered a storm early and was able to put away Gilbert Burns early on in the third round to defend his UFC welterweight championship and then break George St. Pierre's record for wins in the welterweight division.
Yeah, man, he looked great. And yeah, people just MMA fans are some of them the best fans in the world, but there's a lot of them that are just the worst, dude. And you're as good as your last fight, even if you do win. Everybody started giving him shit about the Masvidal fight because they were saying he's boring and all he does is hug you and foot stomp you. But man, like that fight also, that was like a last minute switch up for opponents, and everybody knows what Masvidal is good at, man. Like he's the most dangerous on his feet, and with that short amount of time, like he did what he had to do to get that win and do it, in the best way fashion he thought possible at the time. But look at all his other fights, dude. The guy's unreal. He's a monster at that weight class, and obviously his wrestling is his best thing for sure. He doesn't get taken down. He takes everybody down. He's a physical specimen. Super super explosive, and we don't really get to see much of his jits because usually when he does take guys down, he's more a ground and pounder. But his striking and his boxing, I mean, we've seen it with the Covington fight. The wrestling kind of canceled each other out, and there was more of a stand-up war. But yeah, he looked crisp in this fight, sharp. Yeah, you said early Gilbert came out and kind of came out heavy off the cusp and cracked him with one and kind of like set him off balance a bit. But after he kind of got his timing down and figured out his distance, he really opened up. And yeah, like you said, the jab looked great.
Like, I'm just blown away at the use of his jab. Like, the only other person I've seen have a jab that successful was George St. Pierre against Josh Koscheck in their rematch, where he CHP like obliterated Koscheck's eye in Montreal. And it was, pretty much thanks to that jab. But this jab is just out of this world. The jab is what helped put away Colby Covington back in UFC 245, I believe. And then now puts away like Gilbert Burns, who was coming in off such a hot streak. Sure, he had a little bit of a layoff thanks to COVID, but nonetheless, like, Gilbert looked really good early on. But I just can't think of someone who's used the jab better in mixed martial arts than what we've seen from Kamaru Usman recently.
Yeah, and that's something I always say to people like that have hate seeing guys that are super long. They have that reach and that length, and they don't use it because it's such an advantage. And being a short guy with short arms, anytime I'm a taller guy in the cage, I utilize that shit, which is not too often. But yeah, he looked great. The jab is obviously one of the most underutilized tools in the sport for sure. It's such a good measuring stick for distance, for kind of for timing. But it can also be, look what he did. He sat him down. I think it was twice with the jab. So it can be a heavy shot too, and like, what's the fight that comes to mind? I think it was Cowboy and Barboza, I think, where Cowboy sat him down with a jab too. And so it's like, it's such a good punch, and it's so underutilized, and he used it really well.
Yeah, as I've heard that the jab is the most important tool in your toolbox in terms of stand-up, right? Because it can set up everything, and you can cause misdirection with it as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's also good defensively too. You know what I mean? For getting somebody back, using distance, just kind of setting traps as well. It's such an important tool, and it's nice to see it when it's utilized like that.
Well, as well, like, I think, looking at the countdown and whatever, like, this is the second fight for Usman under Trevor Whitman. And I think that's brought a whole new life and energy for him. Like, sure, what happened with the Masvidal fight, whatever, like, you're going to get some fights that aren't maybe the most entertaining, but he shut down Masvidal in that fight, who took it on 6 days notice, but it was Usman that had to accept as well. But he's just got this whole new life, and you're training with a guy like Justin Gaethje, who loves to have violent strikes. I think that's taken Usman's game just to another level right now.
Yeah, for sure. New eyes is always a good thing, and you can always have your loyal team and whatnot, but it's always good to kind of venture off and add new things to your arsenal. And yeah, man, look at. Everybody always, like I was talking earlier, the people shit on you if you have like a weak performance or a boring performance. But look at all the greats. Every single one of them, they've said the same thing. GSP, people always talk about, oh yeah, he's boring, but he's the best, and everybody watched. And then same with Floyd Mayweather, the most defensively sound boxer ever, the best ever in my opinion. And same thing, people were kind of shitting on him, but they all come to see him and they all say he's the best. And Usman, I did with the Masvidal fight, he did what he does best. But now in this fight, a different stylistic matchup too. He didn't utilize his wrestling. He was smart with it. Why stand strike with a guy like Masvidal, and then why go on the ground with a guy like Burns? I'm sure he's just old training partner. He's grappled with him many times. Probably got caught a few times in submissions. I'm assuming in training, it always happens. He probably felt that his advantage is on the feet, and Gilbert wasn't going to be able to take him down, and he can kind of dictate where he wants it. So it was a perfectly fought fight. First round, yeah, Gilbert came at him hard and I think caught him off a bit, but once he kind of found his distance and timing, it was all Usman.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story of it. Like, we know Gilbert Burns will probably find his way back, but it's just not his time, because Usman's on this. Honestly, he's like carving out a Hall of Fame level worthy career right now, especially his last couple fights. He may break the record of George St. Pierre right now for, consecutive wins in the welterweight division. He still needs to maybe get a couple more title defenses out there. But if he cleans out this welterweight division, like, you could arguably make the argument he's the best welterweight of all time.
Yeah, right now I would say no. He's not there.
I agree. He's not there.
You're right. Like, if he continues his path, yeah, for sure. yeah, he could, man, like, he's on a roll, and if, like he said, if he keeps this up, then he could definitely be in contention for that. I mean, I don't like saying greatest of all time shit because it's,
I didn't say greatest of all time, greatest welterweight of all time.
sorry, great, yeah, it's greatest. But I know, I get caught up in it too. I throw around like everybody says, always the goat, the goat, everybody's the goat. It's just probably best for their time, I would probably say. And GSP was the best in his time. Matt Hughes was kind of before him, and so forth. And now it's Usman time. So we'll see how long he can take it. And but right now he's looking great.
He looked great, and even his promo after was great, and it's getting a lot of intrigue because he called out Jorge Masvidal again. He wants Masvidal to have a full fight camp, and now it seems like that he wants both of them to coach this upcoming season of The Ultimate Fighter, where they don't have coaches. It was looking like it was going to be Masvidal and Covington. Well, now Colby Covington's been put on the back burner, and it seems like they're really getting the negotiations going for Usman versus Masvidal 2, probably for the summer. And I'm all for it. And it makes a lot of sense to me for those two coaching The Ultimate Fighter, is obviously they don't like each other. But Usman has the pedigree of being on that show and winning it. So he does bring a little bit more, I think, to the table to getting some more eyeballs on this upcoming season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Do you think he brings more bring eyeballs than Covington?
I think he does to an extent because of just, what he's doing right now in the sport as well. And he can talk trash as well. And I think Covington's shtick is something that you don't want to get too political on a show that's going to last like 2 months or what have you. And I just feel like Usman adds a lot to that. And there seems to be more genuine heat. I mean, Usman and Covington, they had their thing. They still don't like each other. But Usman and Masvidal, that seems to be the thing where they're still clashing because they want to. Masvidal wants a full fight camp, and why not, right? Like that pay-per-view did like 1.3 million buys. Why not try to go back to it again and help build the legacy if you're Kamaru Usman and get the big payday?
Yeah, I don't think that pay-per-view did that well because of Usman though. I think it was Masvidal.
Sure, but you get the rub off that.
Yeah, for sure. I get it. And he's the champion. I like Usman. I'm a big fan. But as far as doing an Ultimate Fighter, personally, I would much rather see Masvidal Covington.
Okay.
Because I think the matchup is great. Also because they're very tight former training partners as well. So it just kind of adds that other element of, I guess, drama, I guess you could say, for, if you're going to go Ultimate Fighter way. But yeah, man, I guess, I mean, who else is there other than Covington and Masvidal that would be, title contention this time? Maybe Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy, but like I feel like he's still a fight or two away. I guess like Leon Edwards is the other one, but he hasn't fought in 2 years, and no one really knows who he is in North America.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a Leon Edwards versus Wonder Boy for number one contender, and get somebody out of that way. But I don't know. For me, I want to see Masvidal Covington, whether it's on Ultimate Fighter or just they fight one of the two.
I think the fight, like I'm with you on the fight, just on the dynamic that like they, much like Usman and Burns were former training partners. They've talked a lot of trash. But I mean, like I feel Colby Covington, he lost a lot out of what happened on Saturday night because Usman doesn't call him out. He calls out Masvidal. Covington, could have been the one called out, and then he'd have been in that slot. And now it's like, are you going to fight Leon Edwards? Are you going to fight Wonder Boy Thompson? So you go from potentially fighting for the title or at least a number one contender, big pay-per-view fight against Jorge Masvidal to at least main eventing a fight night card.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's possibilities there for whatever they want to do. But has Covington fought since the title or no?
He fought Tyron Woodley. He dismantled Tyron Woodley.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, he did. So he did come out. He's coming off a big one. So yeah, and Masvidal hasn't fought since, right?
He hasn't fought since UFC 251. Yeah.
Yeah, man. For me, that's the one I want to see.
No, I get it. And like there are aspects. I just think right now Usman's writing, like obviously as we're talking right now, he just fought on pay-per-view and did well. And if that's a guy that has potential in being, the face and one of the guys you want to market this sport, especially in Africa for,
Yeah.
Why not get him out there and have this fight where, he's a compelling character as well. Like, he talks well on TV. What him and Covington had those back and forths a couple times, like, they were really entertaining. I just feel like this is the fight right now because it seems like the intrigue's there. There's the excuse of, Masvidal had to cut 30 pounds in like a day or so, or 2 days to get the weight. I just feel like this is the one that they want. And if they want to start TUF relaunched with a bang, why not have that, especially with the guy that's won the show?
Yeah, that's cool asked by the guy that's been on the show and won it. But, I mean, why are they bringing TUF back? Why are they doing that? I thought it was done.
So Dana loves it. I guess that's why. Dana loves it, and you need, I guess, more content for ESPN Plus.
I thought their whole, TUF's done. We're doing the Contender Series. That's now the thing.
Oh, I totally agree. I think Contender Series is the better option for getting that regional talent out there. But I don't know. They want to bring it back. I mean, it's been off, for 2 years? 3 years at least? And I don't know. Dana loves it. Dana has like such an asphyxiation for it. So it's coming back with bantamweights and middleweights.
It's because it was basically the show that saved the UFC, right? Yeah. I guess so. As a soft spot for it, I understand that. Yeah, I mean, the show. It's been around forever. It's a cool concept. I just think it's kind of played out. You know what I mean? It's done its thing. And as far as actually getting, and this is coming from somebody that's been on it, sure. Actually getting the true best performance from the fighters, the Contender Series is the better route in that sense, because even though I don't like the whole Dana White thing, but it is because the fighters will have the full training camps with their regular teams, with their coaches there. So you're most likely going to get a better performance that way, rather than being locked in a house for 6 weeks with strangers that you're going to fight, not having any coaches, not having any of your teammates, and then fighting your bedside buddy. So it's kind of different, So as far as quality of fights, I think it's probably better to go with Contender Series.
Quality of fights, sure, I'm with you on that. But if they're which they are bringing it back, they've already sent the casting calls out and whatnot. Yeah. But you have to remember the Trojan horse of the vehicle is to build up a pay-per-view for the two coaches to fight, which has always been the mainstay of it, right? To get you invested in let's say it's Usman and Masvidal, to get you invested in which side am I on? Am I on Masvidal? Am I on Usman's side? And I want to see them square off and settle this. Like, that is the end goal, is not only building talent, but you get a pay-per-view out of it, which could have, a big pay-per-view. And as we said, it was 1.3 million. And sure, I think Masvidal, especially for what his 2019 run was, helped do that. But UFC, that was UFC's third pay-per-view after the pandemic, where people were still really craved for sports. So I think that also had to be a big factor in why it did so well. But yeah that's why I think that's why they want them, because they want another big number. And that's what they're all in the business for right now, is just those massive pay-per-views to help sell, because this past Saturday, other than the main event, it had zero buzz.
Yeah. I mean, actually, it was like, I liked the card. It was pretty good. But like, as far as reading, we talked about it like before leading up to it.
You even said the prelims were better than the main card.
Yeah, it was. The main card was pretty weak, man, to be honest, as far as namesake. Yeah. Not talking about actual fights after watching it, but yeah, leading up to it, I was just like, I wasn't really hyped to see it, to be honest.
No, and I don't know how well the ratings or the buy rates are gonna be, or whatever, if we even find out, because now the structure's changed with this ESPN Plus deal. But there was zero hype or intrigue about it, and it was really just trying to sell you on these two ex-teammates who didn't even hate each other, right? Like, there wasn't that hatred or aspect of it of two ex. It was just two guys that really respect each other. It was just Gilbert Burns' turn to fight for a title. Yeah,
exactly. And you're not going to turn down a world title shot, right? And that kind of money, when it comes down to it. I mean, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to fight any of my teammates, but if it's for a world title and a boatload of money, I'm sure we'll both be cool with fighting each other and then having beers afterwards,
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. We'll be interested to see what the number does, but it's kind of like Dana was all in on Kamaru being like one of the faces of the sport and one of the biggest names in MMA. So,
but wasn't he kind of like shitting on him before after the Masvidal one?
But isn't he always like? It depends how your performance goes, right? Like, if the fight's boring or whatever to Dana, or he used too much wrestling, like it's
too much wrestling.
it's bad for you. But if you have the stand-up type of fight like he did with Covington and now with Gilbert Burns, like Dana's all for it.
Yeah, too much wrestling, it's not good. Too many jabs, it's good though. You know what I mean? But I seen a funny meme actually today. Somebody posted Dana with like an African
the dashiki.
Yeah, he's like Usman was always my favorite, or something like that. But I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, nothing will ever top on the Contender Series when like Brendan Logden had a takedown with like 10 seconds left in the fight, and then he didn't get a contract because of that. So UFC's loss was PFL's gain.
Yeah, and you know what? I understand that it is a business as well as, you know, like the sport of MMA. So I understand the sides of kind of saying that, but just come out and say it. Like, listen, we're just, you know, this is not what we want right now for whatever reason. It's just like when they signed Sage Northcott when he was like 21 years old or some shit like that. I don't even know how old he was. And he was way too young. Like he was just, you know what I mean? And they built him up and he got beat a few times. But then he started winning and he started getting much better. And then I think it was when his contract was up, they're like, yeah, he's just not ready. You know, we're going to send him out and then he can come back. And I'm like, not ready, man. He looks better now than he ever did. You know what I mean? So if not ready would have been, you know, pre-signing him in the first place. So that's not the reason why. It's just like you tried to build up this guy's too young. It didn't really work out. You kind of lost a little bit of luster. He's building himself back up. Now you're just going to get rid of him. So that's why I was just like, you know, I mean, I guess that's just how Dana is. Half the shit he says doesn't usually a lie and most times. But I understand that, you know, there's a business aspect to it as well.
I get the business aspect, and like a Sage Northcutt and a Mickey Gall, like those are guys that were on that looking for a fight type show, right? So Dana had his face out there with them. So Dana's kind of putting the stamp of approval already on you before you've even had a fight in the UFC. So talk about 10 times the pressure. And like, I think Sage's first fight was pretty much like, you know, what you see in boxing to help build some guy up. Like you're fighting someone that you're totally going to outclass and look really good against. And then as the competition gets better, as you're still only 20 or 21, right? Like you kind of have to get humbled a bit and work your way back. And now Sage is out and won. And, you know, his debut didn't go that grand, but, you know, hopefully he learns from it and gets back out there. But I don't know. I mean, that's just Dana, right? Like he's into you for a minute, and if he's not, the only one he's really into is Conor, just because of all the money, right?
Bro, and I mean, you can actually like kind of like see when he, you know, loses that it's just like, you know, takes a part of Dana's soul leaves when Conor loses a fight. And now I think they're doing the trilogy from what I've seen with Dustin and him.
Oh my God! And Dana still hasn't let go of the idea that Khabib is not giving up the title and like retired. I think he's like, well, Khabib, you know, we're still hoping now we can get a fight for him. Like Khabib's retired like 18 times. Like he doesn't have to make it any more clear to you, Dana. He doesn't want to fight. He's called it a career. You can move on and let's get this lightweight division going again.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I said before about Dana, how he used to talk about if you're contemplating retirement, you probably should, and it's time to walk away. But now he's trying to lure somebody out of it that's already, you know, said, you know, pretty decisively that he's done. So kind of flip flopped. I don't want to talk. I'm shitting on Dana, but I mean he does some good shit too. I'm pulling on the bad shit. But yeah. So what else are we talking about?
Well, I mean, there's plenty that we could harp on Dana for, especially this week. But I think we've done enough of that right now, so maybe we leave that alone. But yeah, I mean, as we talked about, this pay-per-view wasn't the most, you know, name-wise value intriguing, but it did have some good fights, especially, you know, Alexa Grasso looked really good, beating Macy Barber in the co-main event and getting herself up. Kelvin Gastelum finally getting a win after like 3 years. Like, good for Kelvin.
Yeah. I'm glad to see him get the win, man, because that's a guy that's, you know, he's been right there at the top, and it shows that he has the tools to be, you know, a top fighter in that division. To me, I mean, I always thought like he should be at 170, just from the look of him. But you know, maybe he's one of those guys that just, you know, he's thick and just carries that weight, and he's just, you know, more dense. But yeah, he always looked to me that he's small for 85.
Yeah, I think he has had the weight issues before around that weight class, so that's why I guess 185 is the perfect one. But I guess the main card started off with a pretty good fight, and I think the right fight overall that started. Julian Marquez and Maki Patola, where Patola was literally like 2 minutes away from earning a decision before he got caught in that anaconda choke by Marquez, and Marquez gets the win, moves to 8-2, and then his post fight he says, "Miley Cyrus, will you be my Valentine?" and gets a reply from Miley Cyrus that all you got to do is shave the MC in your chest hair, and he came back with more demands and just ruined everything. So I don't know what your thoughts are on his fight, but his mat game was not strong.
Yeah, as far as that, he's one of those guys that picks up the chick but doesn't realize he picked up the chick and then ruins it. You know what I mean? He keeps going on with it. He's one of those guys who reminds me of, you ever seen Swingers?
Yes. Great movie.
When he gets the girl's number, finally, he's all into it, and then he calls her and then leaves a message, and then he's like, oh, shit. And then he calls her back, and then he ends up like leaving like 6 messages in the matter of like 10 minutes, and then she's like, don't ever call me again. He kind of did one of those type of things, I feel.
But, he definitely did.
As far as his fight goes, you know who he reminds me of? Homer Simpson.
Yes.
He's one of those guys. Episode. Yeah, he's so tough and just kind of a durable, gritty caveman. And just kind of, that's what he uses. That's his biggest strength, man. And he'll keep coming. He's got good cardio. And he just kind of puts it on you and kind of wears you down, takes your shit and keeps on going. And then once you're finally super fatigued, and that's when he kind of pounces on you. As far as technique wise, he's pretty sloppy from like his striking standpoint. Like I said, he's just durable, brawly. But he pulled a nice guillotine, it was anaconda choke. Yeah, anaconda choke at the end there. But yeah, man, I like him though. To be honest, I think he's one of those guys that would probably be cool to hang out with, and just very humble, down to earth, kind of like that, guy's guy type guy. And he's been off for a long time too, so I was happy to see him get the win. And yeah, the Miley call out was awesome, and then he ruined it, but good on him.
Kind of wild for a guy to fumble it who hosts a podcast with Kendra Lust. Like that.
Who's Kendra Lust?
She is like one of the top porn stars in the world that's a big MMA fan. So they've done a podcast for about a year now, but like and a lot of it they talk is like relationship kind of stuff. So to fumble it with doing a podcast with Kendra, I think is just a disappointment right there. But I like the Homer Simpson analogy on Julian. But yeah, as you said, he has been off. He's been off like since 2017. So it does. I know a lot of fighters don't believe that ring rust is a thing. I'm one of those that does. It does take the time to get back in there. So maybe there was some effect of that. But as you said, a sick anaconda. And I guess the last thing on this fight is Patola loses the fight, and his coaches literally walk away from him in disgust. Like, to me, that's not cool. Like, you should always stick behind your fighter, even if he gets caught in a choke or a submission or a knockout out of nowhere. Like, you got to have your fighters back through in and through out.
So, yeah, they just left?
They just left him.
Really? Yeah. Well, you wouldn't be my coach anymore after that, for sure. And, however bad or embarrassing the performance was, I would never just walk out on one of my fighters and leave him, because that's just I don't know, that's just fucked up, to be honest. But yeah, that's
talk about killing someone's confidence, right? Like, not only do you lose in a fight you're gonna win, but no one's there to support you or talk to you or give you that hug if you need it, right?
Yeah, just to be there, when you freak out and just kind of just, even if they don't say anything, just to be there with you to show that, no matter what, we're here. It's like you're a team, and then, yeah, that's kind of shitty, man. Who is this coach anyway? Do you know?
Wasn't sure. I know Mackie, he's a vet of the Contender Series. He trains kind of at one of the gyms in Hawaii, West Oahu MMA. So now he's lost 3 in a row in the UFC. I mean, there's some good competition as well, but still, like, for a coach to just leave a fighter on a deserted island like that, I think that's pretty low.
Yeah, that's pretty scummy, man.
Yeah, well, hopefully Mackie, can come back if he gets another fight in the UFC or wherever else. I'll be rooting for him just on that alone. And I mean, that was pretty much the pay-per-view. I know Anthony Fluffy Hernandez had a pretty sick win on the prelims. That's the only other fight I think we'd really need to mention going out of our way talking about. So good for Anthony to submit a world-class, jiu-jitsu guy, right? Which was like plus 3,000 on the betting odds. That was the finish. So if you laid that money down, you'd walked out with a lot of cash.
Yeah, that guy, is one of the top jiu-jitsu wizards right now in the world, and a freakishly big, strong man, and he was doing exactly what they thought was going to happen. He took him down, and multiple submission attempts, and then either, to me, it was either one of a couple options. It was one, he just had a huge adrenaline dump. And kind of just, all his car. I've had that happen in the cage before. You can barely hold your arms up. Or it was just, he's so big and muscular, and, all those squeezing and whatnot, even though, he is a jiu-jitsu guy, so he should be used to this, but it is different in MMA. But it's, he might have just kind of gassed out his arms and his shoulders, and couldn't even, hold them up, and just exhausted. And then that's, when you're most vulnerable, and you see what happened, you get subbed.
Yeah, I mean, good for Anthony Hernandez, Fluffy Hernandez. There are two Anthony Hernandez on the roster, but Fluffy proved that he was the real Fluffy whip and didn't come in a can. That was UFC 258, Josh. And the other thing I really wanted to talk to you is kind of before the pay-per-view, there was this tweet that came out from Cub Swanson saying that all MMA media should have 3 amateur fights before covering the sport, which is, it's generated some, solid conversation between the MMA media and Cub. Like, first of all, I respect Cub more than anyone. Like, that guy's had countless fights, more than, I've even had maybe in video games, right? Like, and he's done it for real. So I respect Cub. But I just think it's, an interesting take. Like, I've done some jiu-jitsu and whatnot, but, like, I'm nowhere near anywhere that. But I don't know, just getting your thoughts on it, like, that a media member should have to have a couple fights before covering the sport.
So how do you feel as a media member?
I mean, I just feel it's kind of a weird take. Like, it's to me like those people that's, that play like football players say, oh, you never played, you can't talk about our sport, where you can have a good knowledge of a sport for associating with it, studying the history, studying the players and whatnot. But I don't think you necessarily have to go in there and fight. Like, you can, if you're willing to, do jiu-jitsu or, take some MMA classes, albeit more power to you. Like, if you want to learn that way or whatnot, and use MMA for, weight loss or what have you. Like, there's a lot of positive sides to MMA, but I don't think you literally necessarily have to have a fight to understand what it's like to be a fighter. Like, you can cover the sport, especially, follow a fighter for a fight camp and see what like a weight cut's like without actually having to do it, to just appreciate the sacrifices that they go through.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say they have to have 3 fights minimum. But I understand where he's coming from in his mind of why he's saying that, because I do feel it is very beneficial for whatever media person to actually be in there and experience it and feel it and whatnot. There's no better way to learn and really, that's one reason where I love Robin Black so much, man, because, Robin is a buddy of mine, but I give him more respect because Robin I think he had like 10 fights or 10 plus fights, pro fights, in Canada. And he's a guy that, when he started too, everybody was just kind of making fun of him because he was a rocker or whatever, right? But he made the transition, did it publicly, and actually, so he knows what it, he knows the weight cut, he knows the free fight, jitters, he knows what is in there, he knows how to win, knows how to lose, knows how to be finished and finish people, what I mean? So he does have that experience, which kind of he can, parlay into his media, which is very beneficial. But do I think you need 3 fights? No, but I do feel experience in the sport will go a very long way. I think he's just kind of like probably aiming at those guys that sit on the couch that have done no athletic, no backgrounds at all in any real competitive athleticism. So they really don't know what it takes, winning and losing big matches, the mentality behind it, the emotional roller coaster, those type of things. So yeah, I get what he's saying, but I'm kind of the in between. You know what I mean? I feel you should have some experience, and I think it's very beneficial, and I think your word would be more. People would
Valid.
take it better. Yeah, more valid. But I don't necessarily think you have to go in there and have numerous fights to be able to call it.
Yeah, I think he was more lashing out at like the MMA trolls that are on Twitter that are like, "Oh, you suck!" Like where all they've done is watch like 7,000 hours of MMA and never done anything athletic, or just sit at home on the computer and whatnot and just talk shit to fighters. Which I never understood. If that's what you're gonna do on social media, why are you even on social media? If that is your whole goal, is to just chirp people because of your, how bad your life has gone. Use some better constructive use of your time. But I feel that's more who it's at. Yeah. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. People are just losers, right? And yeah, that's probably what he's at. So I mean, yeah, I don't know, like, but there's some people that cover the sport that do great, like you do it, you know what I mean? And you never fought before. And I'm trying to think of like top of my head, like James Lynch. James Lynch does it, and he's great. And he's never fought before. So, yeah, I think there's guys that can definitely, obviously, can still cover the sport. But I think the more involved you are in it, whether you train, whether you do amateur fights, whether you do professional fights, whatever. I think the more involved you are in it, the more experience you have, the better it will be for you. That's all.
I think it also comes down to a respect thing. Like,
Yeah.
I, the media member, respect you for the sacrifice you're doing for your not only your health, but time away from your family, all the weight cut, all the mental aspect of this sport that until you kind of start covering MMA, you have no clue what it's like for what someone like you would do. And I think if that's what I think where an athlete and a journalist have like can have good rapport, because there are some journalists, and not just MMA, like in whether you cover football, basketball, hockey, that they'll just write a piece or do a vlog that's just to trash someone because they have a vendetta or something. And that's not journalism. That's just you upset about something. And I think it comes down to just respect. If you respect the athlete, they will respect you. It's just how life should be, right? If you respect it, if you give respect, you get it back.
Yeah, you put it well. You put it well there. I agree with that. I think it's just, I'd say like, I'm trying to think of any. I don't really know if I've had a bad experience with any journalist or interviewer or MMA reporter. They've all been respectful, and majority of them like take a really deep interest in the sport, and they'll ask me about shit behind the scenes that nobody knows about because they're interested in that kind of shit, right? So, for the most part, yeah, they've been great. I think like these shit, like people like that goof Stephen A. Smith. Yeah. What's going there.
Yeah. That's the one journalist a lot of people have gone after because ESPN just puts him there with not a real knowledge of it and just talks really without anything that really he thinks through.
Verbal diarrhea, that guy.
Yes.
He's a good example. You know what I mean? Of he should be punched in the face, and then let's see if he keeps talking the way he does. You know what I mean? That even just a little slap. Just give him a little one, and they'll probably straighten him out real quick. But yeah, guys like that, I have no respect for. But I would say 99% of the journalists out there, usually they're super respectful, and they really really appreciate the sport.
And well, that's because no one has written a bad article or anything because you're just too nice, Josh. Like, they can't hate you. You literally live up to the nickname. You're living the gimmick.
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. There's definitely some people out there that don't like me, and they probably talk shit. But I think if everybody likes you, then there's probably something wrong. You know what I mean?
Wow. I think we saw that with Jon Jones, right? Like, the Jon Jones, the classic case of it's too good to be true. It's exactly that. But yeah, I just thought an interesting thing, and it's also good to see that the MMA Media and Cub on the thread of that tweet, it's all positive. It's all like kind of talking ideas out, which I think in the long term for the sport is a healthy thing.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, like I said, I think the more experience the media can get and kind of see everything and not just see only the two guys fighting in a cage one night, it'll be more beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty much it just comes down to respect your fellow fighter, like you would your fellow neighbor. So
And your fellow football player, NHL, I mean, any type of athlete. I don't care what sport it is. It doesn't really matter. Uh, I think MMA is, probably one of the toughest sports for sure. But a tennis player, a golfer, these guys, like, it takes so much determination, will, discipline, physical, mental. It's so tough. So any athlete or any professional for that matter, I have so much respect for, regardless.
For sure. I mean, that kind of a solid discussion, but it's kind of hard to move over to. We got a card as we're winding things down. We got a card once again on Saturday. UFC Fight Night, Blades versus Lewis. Once again, another big heavyweight fight. Curtis Blades looking to really solidify himself, getting, on the cusp of getting a title shot. It's going to be tough, especially if Francis Ngannou does win, because Blades has 2 losses to Francis Ngannou. But Derrick Lewis is always a tough guy. Like, you can wrestle him, grind him for 4 rounds, but he'll just maybe come and hit you with one uppercut or a cross in the 5th round and come away with a victory.
Yeah. I like Derrick Lewis just because he's hilarious, man. You know what I mean? And so I like watching him fight. I like seeing him win. As far as a fighter wise, yeah, you know what he's good at, right? He's got the big power. The wrestling and jits game ain't usually his big, bread and butter. And Blades is a big athletic, dominant wrestler. So I see him doing that for majority of the fight. He's going to be smart. He's not going to go out there and brawl with Lewis. But it's whether or not it's 5 rounds, and Lewis is, like you said, he can win 4 rounds with him, and then he can clip you, in the 5th round and finish you off. So it's more about Blades not making a mistake and see if he can do that for 25 minutes. If I had to pick one, I'll probably pick Blades by decision, but I'm really hoping Lewis by KO.
Yeah, I can see, honestly, there's a path to victory for Lewis. Plus, he has slimmed down a bit to get his cardio up, and he did look good weight-wise when he fought Alexei Oleinik, who is fighting on this card as well, back in the last fight towards the end of 2020. So I think that's a big benefactor too. Like, the lighter he can be, he's got some injuries that have healed up. That makes for a much more dangerous Derrick Lewis as well.
Yeah, for sure. And going 25 minutes, right, to shed a bit of that weight off, it'll help him cardio-wise. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how he can do. The wrestling cardio though is the hardest to get, and it takes the most out of you, man. Grinding up with a guy for 10, 20, 25 minutes, it's tough. So we'll see if he can handle that with Blades.
There's a lot of heavyweight fights on this card, actually, just looking at it. So obviously the main event, Blades and Lewis. There is Alexei Oleinik, Chris Daukaus, heavyweight fight. Andrei Arlovsky, Tom Aspinall, heavyweight fight. And the card opens with Sergey Spivak and Jared Vanderaa, another heavy. Like, there are 4 heavyweight fights on this card. So UFC's really making a push at getting that heavyweight division, getting it right. I guess getting it lined up and organized.
Yeah, well, I mean, the heavyweight division is like, in the history of the sport, has always been like the biggest, baddest one, right? It was the most eyes on it for the most part, especially in boxing. And then it was like that in MMA too, and then it kind of faded for a while, but it seemed to be picking back up now. And with when DC and Stipe and guys like that at the top, and now you got the Francis Ngannou, who's like just a physical freak. Yeah, man. And then with adding in Blades, adding in Lewis, and then you still got the old dogs and like Arlovsky still kicking in there. Yeah, it seems to be like a pretty live and well division. I know Jon Jones going up too. That makes it even more interesting.
I mean, it is always a important division. It's one that always gets the eyeballs on it because, dudes that are weighing 265 pounds and up that are, throwing leather in a cage and putting on violence always brings some eyeballs to it. But I don't know. And to me, the interesting thing of the main event is, while Lewis, he's got his cardio a little bit adjusted. He hits still powerful. I'm really interested to see how this one goes in the later rounds, because Blades is coming off the case of COVID. And Ian Heinisch on the card last weekend, UFC 250 against Calvin Gastelum, he looked exhausted after the first round, and he had a bout of COVID himself. So I'm wondering what your first fight back after COVID and like that stuff still lingering. I know there's still a lot not out there, but I'm kind of interested to see how that goes for Blades if he doesn't get maybe a win by the third round.
It'd be interesting. Has any fighter that has had COVID fought since and won and gone 3 rounds or 4 or 5 rounds?
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and I'm drawing a blank, even though I think there has to be at least, right? Because there's a couple fighters. Oh, I interviewed Justin Wetzel. He believes he had COVID back in January before it was a global pandemic type of situation, and he got a win in November actually against T-Shake Guthro in the LFA. But that was a 3-round fight. So no one's gone that I know of has gone the distance. But
that was January. He thought he had it, and then November.
That was January 2020 that he had the symptoms, but it wasn't called like COVID or anything like that.
So it was almost a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, right? So it'd be interesting to see if somebody like that got it cleared, and 2 months later fought. See if it had any lingering effects. I think for some people it might, and some people have nothing. You know what I mean? I think that's just kind of how it is. Just like, I don't know, like any virus, everybody's body's different, right? Their immune system fights it off differently. So
I just know, seeing this video that was surfaced of Khamzat Chimaev with COVID in the gym, like, this man looked like he was going to die, and he thought he was going to die because I guess he has a chest. He got bronchitis right after. Like, he thought he beat it, and then he ended up getting bronchitis. He did 1 round and had to have a full I don't know how long his break was, like half an hour or so. So he wasn't training properly, but he's trying to beat it that way. But clearly the effects were lingering. I think he's coming to the States to get like a good scan of his chest and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just an interesting thought to look at some of these guys. Like, just Heinisch brought it up because he looked like he, been in a 25-minute fight after 1 round.
Yeah, I think that's like, as a fighter, I get kind of trying to battle it, you know what I mean? But that's probably the worst thing we could do. Like, just thinking about it, like, listening to Cody talk about it too. When we're training for fights, we're putting our bodies in a horrible state. Really, you're breaking your body down to build it back up to be as strong as it can be. So while we're breaking it all down, you're way more vulnerable for any type of sickness. Like, a lot of my camps, I've gotten sick. Always at the end of my camps, especially earlier, I always start getting a cold and stuff like that because my immune system's so low from breaking it down so much, or I'd get staph infection, stuff like that. So I think, with this COVID stuff, like, the chances of getting it for fighters, especially being in close proximity, probably greater because of, our bodies are so broken down.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just put it out there, just an opinion of what I see. I'm not a doctor, obviously claiming he still has effects. Yeah. I just don't know, but it seems like this is a virus that still lingers in people's lungs and has effects long after they, it's out of their body or whatever.
I mean, it's possible. Maybe you're right. Maybe it does. Maybe it does for some people. Maybe it doesn't for others. Who knows?
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I do play one on TV here. So I guess, Josh, that pretty much wraps us up this week as, we've hit that time. But once again, before I let you go, plug yourself, and got to plug Thick Boys. Definitely go out there and support them because they have such sweet swag as this sweater. They also got a solid T-shirt as well. I have one right here. Put it up in the camera. So give them a follow out there. I'll put the link in the description to Thick Boys.
The Thick Boys, those funny bastards over there, Thick Boys. At Gentleman J Hill. That's it. Follow me there if you want.
That's on Instagram, everyone.
On Instagram. There you go.
Josh does not have Twitter at this moment. He may get one again.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
Well, I'll hold a hope out for it. When you get a fight lined up, maybe you'll think about getting the Twitter out there again. Yeah,
we'll see.
I'll run your Twitter.
There you go. Maybe you can run it for me.
I'll run it the Twitter. All right. Well, Josh, once again, thanks again for your time, and we'll be back again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace out, everyone.